Welcome back to Morgan Dynamic Research. In the last video we talked about thought, void, and the three primal forces that act inside 3FFM. In this video we're going to introduce the first actual place in the model, the tapestry, its nodes, and the role of source.
Once delineation, completion, and scale begin to act on void inside thought, they do not immediately produce particles or fields. They first produce a structure of locations where something could exist. That structure is called the tapestry. The tapestry is a finite collection of points called nodes, together with the links that say which nodes are neighbors. You can think of it as a very large but still finite network that will hold everything the universe can ever contain. In 3FFM, this is space itself.
A node in 3FFM is not a tiny ball of space or a little cube. A node is a point created by delineation in conceptual union with scale upon the void. It has no internal size, no shape, and no geometry of its own. What makes a node different from void is that it has a unique relational position among a finite set of other nodes. It is a place in the network, not a little chunk cut out of a continuum.
Guided by scale, the first node appears, and then more nodes are added around it in all directions. They form a finite, roughly spherical arrangement called the primal sphere. It is the first complete set of nodes that can ever exist in 3FFM. As the model unfolds, the same finite arrangement is what we call the universal sphere. That is the full set of nodes that make up the present universe in 3FFM. There are no hidden extra nodes beyond it and no continuous background in between. Only nodes denote location. Void has no locations at all.
The tapestry contains all the information about which nodes are connected to which. In 3FFM, adjacency, or which nodes are essentially touching each other, is what defines possible movement and locality. In graph language, the nodes are vertices, and the links between them are edges. And an edge means you can move between those two nodes in a single step. Distance in this world is literally how many nodes you have to step through along a path between two locations. There is no extra notion of distance living in the gaps, because void is dimensionless and irrelevant to distance or geometry in 3FFM.
This is why we say the tapestry is the first geometry in 3FFM. Space is not something that exists on its own and then gets filled. Space is the pattern of nodes and their adjacencies. The void cannot host anything. Only nodes can host structure, and only the tapestry defines directions and distances by the way nodes are connected.
The geometry is also fixed and finite. There are only a finite number of nodes in the tapestry, and that number does not change. Nodes never move relative to one another. All motion in 3FFM is described as changes in which node or nodes are hosting a given pattern. You do not slide through a continuous space. You hop from node to node along the tapestry.
Now we can talk about source. Source, the conceptual union of completion and scale, is the active line that flows through nodes. When source loops inside a single node in a stable pattern, you get the elemental construct called a dihapl. That dihapl is the smallest something the tapestry can host and the basis from which all matter is constructed.
If we mark one continuous thread of source and follow it as it relocates from node to node over time, we can track its identity. The path of nodes it visits is a discrete worldline through the tapestry. In ordinary physics, you might draw a smooth curve through space-time. In 3FFM, a worldline is a sequence of nodes of the tapestry that host the same tracked source identity at successive steps.
So at this point, we have three key ingredients. First, a finite tapestry of nodes that defines where things can be. Second, a purely relational geometry where distances and direction are built out of node-to-node connections and step counts. Third, source flowing through the tapestry, forming Dihapl at nodes and tracing world lines as it moves.
From here, all of the familiar substructures of physics will eventually be built. Particles, fields, and forces will all be patterns of source on this fixed tapestry. But we are not there yet. We still need one more ingredient: time.
In the next video, we will talk about how tapestry changes over time, tick, scalar time, and the stack at each node.
Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.